Today I'm going to buy yet another cheap car because, as you can see, I totally need another car, right? Right? I spend a lot of time looking for old cars on Craigslist and Facebook. I tend to search for unique obscurities, unloved gems, or econoboxes that time forgot, or weird purple things like this right over here. Sometimes I buy them as projects to fix up, even though I'm a terrible mechanic. That's why this purple car is still sitting over here. And sometimes I buy them just because they're so cheap. And sometimes I buy them because I want to experience a slice of history, and that's exactly what I want to do today. There's a car I found on OfferUp, and I absolutely need to go take a look at it. It's about 2 hours away, and before you get too excited, no, it's not technically a special car. It's not even really all that rare. It's just a vehicle that used to be everywhere when I was a kid, and now I just don't see them anymore. So let's get going and add another vehicle to my collection of dumb cars. Let's go. So I'm headed west on the 210 freeway through the never-ending sprawl of the greater Los Angeles area, and I'm headed out to go take a look at a car from 1990. Now, if you watch my channel, you're very familiar with the fact that I'm a big fan of the cars from the 80s and 90s, and I also have too many of them, and I probably shouldn't be going to go look at another one. I don't have a problem, and I can stop at any time, right? Right? So you're probably asking yourselves, what am I going to go take a look at? I can't tell you yet. That would take away all the fun, wouldn't it? So this vehicle is something that I remember as a kid. I remember seeing them all over the place. They were everywhere. There were also quite a few variants of them badged as other brands. So if you're thinking badge engineering, your brain might take you right to General Motors, and you'd be correct. They were really good at this in the 80s and 90s. Well, I'd say really good at it, meaning they did a lot of it. I don't think it was good for their business. I don't know if it was really that good for their brands that they did it to. But yes, lots of badge engineering going on at General Motors in the 80s and 90s. I'll give you another hint. Recently, I sold a vehicle that I had on my channel for quite a while. It was a Pontiac. I love that car, but it was time for it to go on to a new owner. But within a few weeks, I started to feel a Pontiac-shaped void in my heart. So yes, going to look at yet another Pontiac because I'm an idiot. But I'm pretty excited. Apparently it was a grandma-owned car. It only has about 100,000 miles on it. But when I saw the pictures of this vehicle, it just instantly took me back. It was so incredibly rad, even for a grandma car. I can't wait to see this car. I hope it's good. I hope it runs fine. I hope it's in good condition. And I hope I don't end up paying too much money for it, because if I like it, I'll probably just pay him what he's offering. I probably should get better at negotiating. I probably should get better at actually inspecting the vehicles before I buy them. But sometimes my emotions get the best of me, and I just like fork over cash for a car that's not that great. But anyway, we'll be there in about an hour. I'm super excited. Okay, so without further ado, here is the car that I just bought. This is a 1990 Pontiac Grand Am SE. The third generation Grand Am was introduced in '85 using the new N-body platform, replacing the unpopular Pontiac Phoenix. There were quite a few changes to engines and options over the course of the third gen production, and the front and rear fascias were redesigned in '89. This 1990 SE gave you the 2.3-liter LD2 quad-4 engine, making 160 horsepower, which was pretty decent for 1990. This Grand Am has an automatic transmission, which means Pontiac gave you the less potent quad-4 engine. Manuals in 1990 actually made 180 horsepower. But we do get SE ground effects and these super rad 14-inch wheels. I'm so excited. It is so 90s. Those wheels are amazing. The body cladding, which I hated back in the day, I love it now. It just takes me right back to early 90s General Motors. It's awesome. All right, let's take it for a quick drive. All right, I've had the car for 5 minutes and I've already lost the keys. All right, here we go. So yeah, this interior is in really great shape. There's no cracks on the dashboard. Apparently this dashboard had been covered the whole time that this grandma owned this car. I think it's important to point out that Grand Am and Grandma have the exact same letters, just in a different order. So this is the Grandma Grand Am. And that grandma, she took really good care of this car. There's a couple minor scratches, there's some imperfections in the paint. It could use a good exterior detail, but you just don't see these anymore. Even if it was in worse shape, I still would have bought it because they're all gone. And no, this little 4-cylinder, the Quad 4, doesn't have a ton of power, but it's not that bad. This is the SE model, so it is a little bit sporty. Not fast by today's standards, but was decently quick for 1990. This also has the 90s GM build quality. There's a lot of rattles, there's a lot of squeaks. I think that's just par for the course for a early 90s General Motors economy car. But wow, I just can't get over how nice this interior is. All right, let's load this up, head home before I hit even more traffic. Turning radius could be better. I'm so excited. This is an awesome car. I love it. I might even like it more than the Turbo Grand Prix that I had. All right, let's get this thing home.
The next day.
All right, now that my Grand Am is home and it's washed, let's take a closer look. I mean, come on, look at these wheels. This is like pretty much the only reason why I bought this car. These wheels are amazing. And this is back in the era where they always had to tell you some feature of the car, especially General Motors. They love to tell you a feature of the car on the badges. This has fuel injection. By 1990, there weren't that many carbureted cars left, at least in the United States. So yeah, this might have just been sort of a carryover from the mid 80s when they introduced this car. And then you can't have a Pontiac design from the 80s or 90s that didn't have this kind of grid taillight. I love this. My Grand Prix had this. It's fantastic. Like I said, I had a Pontiac withdrawal. I needed to fill it immediately because I love taillights like this. And then, as you might remember, Pontiac was all about body cladding in the 90s. So much cladding. Once again, you needed to make sure everybody knew some feature about your car. 16 valves in this SE. Now here's something interesting you might remember from one of my Grand Prix videos, how much space there is. The panel gaps are insane, just like fit your whole hand in there under the lights. I mean, I can't quite do it on this side. This one's probably not quite adjusted right. Maybe not quite Tesla bad. Okay, I'm just joking, I kid. Now onto the Grand Am badge. It's kind of cool that it's white. I don't see many new cars use white badges like this. The Volkswagen ID4 does. I can't really think of any other new cars that do this. In terms of the condition, it's in pretty decent shape. Yeah, the paint is original. There's a few scratches, a few chips here and there, but you know, from 10 feet away, 5 feet away, it actually looks pretty good. You get up a little bit closer, you can start to see a couple little issues here. There's a bunch of little chips back here, and then a couple little bumps and bruises. That's to be expected from a car that is this old. A couple scrapes on the bumper. But for a 32-year-old car, it's in pretty good condition. Somebody actually cared for this thing. Somebody garaged it. It has no rust. It's a California car. The grandma that drove this around obviously liked it. It's just really cool to see a vehicle like this where most of them have been crushed. This was a compact car. This was an economy car, sort of a sporty economy car. But once these reached the end of their serviceable lives, most of them just got trashed. Before we go inside, let's take a quick look under the hood. It's not perfect, but it's pretty clean for a car this old. And there it is right there with the big logo, the Quad 4 logo. No, this is not the 180 horsepower version. This is the 160 horsepower version because it has the automatic transmission. Still nice to have 160 horsepower in 1990. That was kind of a big deal. All All right, let's take a look at this interior. Prepare for some early 90s General Motors quality. Here we are in my 1990 Pontiac Grand Am SE. The first thing you'll notice are the creaks and the squeaks. Everything you touch is kind of creaky. Creaky and squeaky. And that's kind of to be expected from a early 90s General Motors product. Kind of to be expected from a lot of cars from the early 90s. I think General Motors was still trying to figure out plastics. But that's not to say it's bad. I actually really like the design in here. I like Pontiac designs from the 80s and 90s. I actually really like the design of these vents. It was kind of really hard to tell, but there's this cool grid design on this plastic right down here. It's certainly a whole lot better than the piano black that you see on a lot of new cars. And if you've driven a Pontiac from the 80s and 90s, you'll probably recognize these light switches and the wiper controls. It's sort of like a reduced set of what I had on my Grand Prix. Same thing with the steering wheel. You might think that Pontiacs from the 80s and 90s all had buttons everywhere on the steering wheel, but you have to remember this was their economy car, this was their compact car, so they didn't give you as many options on the steering wheel, just horn buttons. One thing that might be hard to adjust to if you're not used to compact cars from this era is just how small they are. Back when I was a kid, the Grand Am didn't seem all that small, but actually sitting in one, yeah, this is a very small vehicle by today's standards. I've got my seat all the way back. There's not a whole lot of legroom for me, and not really a whole lot of legroom for the rear seat passengers either. But there is a lot of headroom because of that really upright rear window, which is pretty cool. And actually, look at those back seats. It kind of looks like nobody ever sat back there. Maybe grandkids on occasion, but that's it. And actually, I don't even know, does this have a pull-through, pass-through? Oh, look at that, I didn't even realize that. That's cool. Nice! A feature I didn't even know existed. Down here you got really simple HVAC controls, which is nice. A cassette player, which I have to test that. I'm not sure if it works. I'll have to test that in my next video with this car. And of course, the obligatory little trees air freshener, which who knows, maybe this has been here since the 90s. It looks a little bit old. And this is actually where the power window switches are, right here in the middle, which is kind of a strange place. And then right in here is actually kind of a little ingenious design. There's two little tabs that you can slide back. Slide back this one and you get an ashtray. Slide back this one and you get a cup holder. That is so cool. It's a really, really good design. And then this little center console is kind of flimsy. I don't really want to break it. I feel like I'm gonna break it if I try to open it. I might investigate that a little bit more thoroughly before I try to open this and completely break a bunch of plastic. Because in general, the plastics in here are brittle, but they're in pretty good shape. A little bit of tape right here on the side. I'm not exactly sure why that's there. I don't know if it's to hold this piece in, but yeah, headliner's in good shape. The upholstery is in good shape. I just love this car. I really love it. I don't know why, because objectively it's not very good, but there's just something about this that I can't put my finger on, and it might just be, it's just nostalgia. It's totally nostalgia. I love this car because I'm nostalgic for the era. I think my driving test, when I took my driving test back when I was 16, I think I drove the next generation Grand Am, so maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia there where I have some strange misguided nostalgia for Grand Ams. I don't really know. I also just like the fact that you don't see these anymore. I can't tell you the last time I saw those wheels. Those wheels are incredible. It's the reason why I bought this car. I know that's incredibly stupid to buy a car because of the wheels that it had, but that's pretty much why I did it. Anyway, I'm gonna have more videos with this car coming soon, so this is just kind of like a little brief dipping my toe into the Grand Am world. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you can get notified of all my new car reviews, used car reviews, and updates on my fleet of weird and strange and obscure cars. None of them are worth anything, but I enjoy them, so hopefully you do too. Also, if you're into podcasts, please be sure to subscribe to my new Hello Road podcast channel. If we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can stream the podcast live, which would be awesome. Just click the link above. And if you want to help support the show, please consider buying a Hello Road t-shirt. Here's one of many. This one has a Nissan Pulsar NX design. I've got a few others that are mostly weird old cars. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.